Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Crimi-Trent. Today is Floral Friday and I'm doing something a little different today. I'm doing poppies, but I'm teaching you the dry brush technique with watercolor. It's really easy to do. Literally this will take us 5 minutes to paint. It has a great vintage look to it and it's easy and you don't have to use expensive paints for this. If you want the brighter colors, you might have to use expensive paints, and you don't have to use super expensive brushes because you're kind of like wrecking your brush as you're doing it a little bit. Just a touch, not too bad. So let's get started. Okay, as you see, I have my supplies ready to go. I have Arches 100% cotton cold press 140 pound paper. You're really going to need like a nice textural paper like this to do this tutorial because it's going to help you do the dry brush technique. Various paints here, mixed my palette here. I have all kinds of greens and reds, and I'll go over them as I use them. And I have a tutorial on this palette that I did, so you can check it out to see what paints I actually used. I have 2 jars of watercolor up here. I paint paper towels down here. And I'll be using my Princeton number 8 long round brush today. Now see, I didn't an experiment to see how it would look and the color tones that I chose. I don't always do that, but sometimes, because this was a scrap piece of paper, because this paper is kind of pricey, so I had a scrap, so I figured I'd try it on the scrap. But this one is not a scrap. This is actually a fresh piece. I actually took this from a 10 by 14 sheet. I folded in half, then folded in half again, so it's probably like a 5 by 7 or something like that. So there's no drawing tutorial on this. It's just a doing tutorial kind of situation. I have mixed up rose with a little bit of crimson. Now see, this technique, you're not going to want it, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, really loose. You're going to see how I'm just putting on the side of my brush. You want it loose, but not super loose. It's almost concentrated. It's not going to be this really loose water situation. And I'm going to take this brush, we're going to kind of hold it and I'm going to push it on its side. So, you see, I'm just pushing it on its side like that, making these strokes like this. And you have this nice dry brush technique. Again here, to make these poppies that I did. Just pushing the brush around like this. Now you can use the same technique on a lot of flowers. It doesn't have to be poppies that I'm doing right here. Just showing you these for an easy tutorial on making this dry brush technique work for you. Again, so I'm going to do a poppy. I'm going to just go around. I'm just doing this motion, back and forth kind of motion. If I don't want it too rough, I'll fill it in a little more. So some areas can be rough, some areas cannot be rough. Play around with it. There's no right or wrong. And because it's not super wet, there's not going to be a bleed factor with this. And then you can grab the green paint, same consistency. I might have to add a little water to it. And if you feel like it's getting too wet, you just dab your brush on the paper towel. Let me zoom that out so you can see. So you're just dabbing on here. That's what I do sometimes. See, it feels a little wet. I can see it not doing the dry brush technique. So I dab it on my paper towel, dry it off, and there we go. Making this just dry lines. So I put the leaf. Now you don't have to use this brush. You can use any brush you want. I like this because it has a good belly to it and it helps push the paint around and give it that more loose, dry technique look. So there's a simple poppy. I do want to clean the brush off. And then grab in, doing the same thing. I'm going to clean up the brush. I'm going to dry it off on the paper towel and grab some of this paint. Well, it's too dry. So you're going to have to play around with it. Like I said, with the consistency. It should be a little loose, but not super wet. And if you feel it's too wet, just dab it on the paper towel. Come back in. Yeah, let's go do Poppy on its side. It's just these brush strokes like this. Filling it in the background. Really simple. This one I left, it's not as rough like the pink one, but I can go in and add a rough layer with orange on top. Again, we're going to do the green. I'm going to add some of this medium green, a little burnt umber, some Hooker's green. Get it to a decent consistency. Put it on that belly of the brush. Now see, I think I feel like it's wet again, so I'm going to dab it on the paper towel. Pull it down. And make those rough leaves that you see in the funky leaves that you see in many of the poppies. Poppies also have that, you know, those cool like hanging down buds. So you have a nice white. You can make the little fuzzies, just these little strokes all along. Same thing with here, but you don't have to. Again, put that stem over here. We're just playing. So I'm just showing you the basics of how to do the rough dry brush technique. And you can keep adding in deeper layers. Again, making sure the consistency is not super wet. And dab it on your paper towel if you feel like it's getting too wet. How you know it's too wet? It's not doing that loose, rough edge. This is a way to have your watercolor actually look more like gouache in a way. I'm just playing around with color. Also, if you don't have expensive watercolors, this is perfect. It's a whole new type of look, technique, and I just love it. I play around with this a lot. Again, here, I'm going to grab a darker tone, so I'm going to grab some of the crimson, a little of the red. I have to get some water on it because it's so concentrated. Let's grab that. Might throw in a little medium yellow. Again, I'm dabbing it in the paper towel. And we're just going to feather out. I call it feathering out. You're taking the brush and you're pushing out the color. And see, it still has that, zoom in, that dry brush look. But it's a darker tone. And it gives that flower. I'm going to add some more. Some pop, some vibrance to it. You can add some on the top of the petals, going downward. Experiment with how you want it to do. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, like I tell you all the time. Again, with the yellow one, I'm going to add a little of that medium yellow. Just going to get it loose. Feathering out from the bottom and from here downward. Give it that poppy look. Just keep feathering it downward, upward. And you can go in and add black center. Since it's so dry, it won't bleed. Make sure you have a little halo. So it's kind of like that anemone center, but they're smaller flowers and more like a petal, as opposed to the anemone has that weird funky shape. Again, you do those little dots going around it for this stamen. And you can leave it like that, or you can take little lines and connect it if you want to. Depends on how you want to do it. Oh, God, you didn't even see that. I'm sorry. So you know what I mean. You did this circle, and you do little dots. And here, you just put in some black on the inside. Little dots. I'll do a small one just so you can see that one. I forgot I had it zoomed in. Sorry. I figured you could see that. So I'll do another little flower over here so you can see what I mean. Again, we'll take the consistency. Let's make this a blushy type color. Dabbing it on my brush. Make a little one down here. It's kind of like those California poppy colors, which are mostly like oranges and yellows, and bright oranges. California has a bright orange poppy. So this one isn't, this one's a little more blended. So I can make the top color have more of a brush stroke. The rough, dry brush stroke. This is such a fun. It does kind of wreck your brush a little bit, so be warned. Don't use a super nice brush with this, because it will. It's gonna, you know, you're pushing it brush around like that. You're gonna kind of damage it. So you might want to use one of your lesser, like a brush that's losing its tip, not so great. Okay, so again, just go and add the black. I make like a circle. I leave the halo. You've seen me do this 1,000 times, but now I'll zoom in on that one. And then you just do little dots on the outside to get that same look as that one. Mixing up some green. That one's a little dark. Do leaves. But it's a really fun, easy exercise to do. And you can play around with different types of flowers in this technique. Roses. Paint them the same way that I'm showing you, but don't have it so wet. You know, this is, like I said, it's going to turn into almost like a opaque watercolor in a way. See, I'm adding in the deeper reds because it's concentrated to get this look. It's much more concentrated. And you can mix up. You could do the wet on wet and the flowers this way. So you have this really different type of painting. But for today's tutorial, we're just doing a simple poppy dry brush technique tutorial. So I got that little bud there. If I wanted to add like a flower that's coming out, just go in and add the little color on the bottom and in the middle, like it's about to open up. How cute is that? Look how pretty and simple that is. I mean, it'd be great for a card, gift. And how long did this take us to do? Seriously, I think less than 5 minutes. Like I said, you can end up using paints that you don't, I mean not paints, excuse me. Well, even paints too, but brushes that are not as nice, or they're falling apart, and that you don't want to use for your nicer tutorials. It looks kind of antique-ish, you know, like vintage, which is kind of pretty. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It's a real quick one today, huh? Yep. Please, if you have a chance, check out my my other channel. I call it Amazing Art, whatever. I just wanted to have a generic channel. I didn't want to have 2 channels with my name. I might change it later. I don't know, because they're not going to be paintings that I would actually sell. They're just paintings that I'm showing, like, you know, for fun, palette. I mean, I do sell them, but they're not like the ones I put on my website. So they're just palette knife or regular painting techniques. They're just fun, under 30-minute quick paintings. You can look at the demos and try and do them yourself. If you're into doing acrylic, you don't have to use expensive paint with those. You get the cheap canvases at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. They have them so cheap, like they come in packs of like 5 or 8. Cheap brushes, cheap paints, and just have fun. It's just, a whole other thing you can do. So please check that out. That's on my homepage, and it's also in the description box under this video. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you have a great weekend. Take care.